So Umar, today, we're talking about how decision making itself is uh, shifting from humans going on to a search engine, searching for lists to choose from, to now machines that are genuinely composing actual outcomes. And I know you and I have been having a lot of discussions offline about travel. And I think this gives me a good opportunity because that's a good lens to sort of look at all of this through, right? Um, Underneath all of that is something bigger, which is how our agentic systems, trust and operations overall, like reshaping the way large enterprises, large businesses actually work. And you've been building genuinely, like hands-on, building AI systems inside these real enterprises. So if we were to start from the first principles, right? The search box is dying. We know this. Web traffic is like down maybe 15% year on year. And Gen AI is sort of becoming the new front door of the internet. And that's what people are saying. So what actually breaks when the search box sort of stops being the primary interface? Let's go with that first.
So, when we started building Code Ninja, and one of the things for us was like how to track traffic, how to bring more businesses to our websites. And at the time, the common notion was, and I mean, you need to create a lot of content, right? The sake of creating content was never to, of course, that was, it was never to, for example, help the user. That was never the macro agenda. Always it was like how to rank yourself up, how to write a lot of content. And there were companies like HubSpot, they used to tell like you need to, and they were telling their stories that they write when they were building HubSpot, they used to write about CRM and sales, 3 blogs every day, and they did it for a decade. So everyone was saying like the content is a thing and you need to write a lot of content, and that content, because that would give you the boost on search and Google and stuff like that. So there was a whole new wave of just writing content for SEO and stuff like that. And for the whole 10-15 years that happened, the likes of Neil Patel and all that, there were master classes how to rank your content and stuff like that. And we were victim of that too. Truly, if you really ask yourself, try to understand what the real thing was. Like, no one wrote content for, content means no one wrote net new knowledge because they wanted the world to inform about that. Everyone wrote because they wanted a piece of the traffic, right?
Yeah.
Truth was never the intended purpose. It was all lie, right?
Yeah.
So now that era is over, and I think for good. So I think that's one thing that when, for example, if search box is dying, it had to, because and for one reason, it's all lie, right? If you are saying, give me top 5 airlines, and the airlines that are top 5 are, because they're not top 5 because they're top 5. They're top 5 because they had a lot of effort in writing the content, and now they're top 5. So that's not what user asked top 5, right?
Yeah.
So that's, so far I'm very excited about it. Okay, that's a great thing that search box is dying, right? And now coming to Gen AI, it's not just like the truth had a chance. I think currently Gen AI is also relying a lot on the same kind of content that from the content from these websites, the comparison websites and all that. But eventually, the optimization function is towards more truth, towards more trust. So the first thing, I think it's the exciting part here is that more and more right kind of information would be available when it comes to Gen AI, when it comes to platforms like ChatGPT. Because at the end of the day, user would come for knowledge. Where would people go for the knowledge base? They would. They have to have. They have to go somewhere. So they would go to ChatGPT, and they're already going there. But when they go there, the best thing is the ChatGPT, Grok. They are optimizing towards the truth. What is the truth? And that's the first thing. That's very good. So no more fake SEO content. That's number one. And second thing is the way these platforms behave, the interaction has changed. So for example, now I went to Turkey in 2018, and I had to do a lot of effort to find out where I have to live, right? But and then I picked one hotel and all that stuff. But now you have to give your budget right? And it would do all the chat GPT and all these platforms would do all the heavy lifting for you. So it has, I mean, why I have to do all those comparison and bullshit? So that's the second thing that I think that's what driving the people's behavior. So this first part, yes, I think 15% year on year is good, but I can tell you in next 2 years there won't be any traffic left in these search engine. Mark my words, Google is a yellow pages of 1990s, right? When I talk about Google, means Google search. Google is insanely great company when it comes to AI, right? You've been using Gemini and all that. I mean, I'm talking about Google search, not talking about like.
No, good clarification. I think necessary, very necessary. No, but I think I completely agree, and it's also interesting because I think visibility then, which was the goal with SEO and all of those things, it's very, very interesting because visibility now sort of, if you think about it, depends on being trusted by the models as opposed to how many humans have clicked on something, right? Which changes because previously we were playing that game and we were forced to play that game because if you wanted to rank up, then that's how you had to do it. So if clicks now don't matter anymore, what does matter?
So trust is a very macro term, right? By the way, when even in Google search, because we have a lot of SEO stuff, right?
Yeah, of course.
Code Ninja for our own websites.
Yeah.
So even in Google, it's not that easy. And it's not only the clicks that count. I mean, your web authority, your ranks, your content, truly unique content, and all that matters, right? So that is what, for example, if your website is being mentioned by someone like Forbes or someone which is a very high authority, proof of high authority, then your content ranks very high, right? But the whole lens of trust would change. So in ChatGPT, all those things matter, but the decision making would be by the agent itself. And I've seen it firsthand, like that somehow I've tested, like when you ask what are the top 10 things, what are these things which are not just facts, which are very opinionated things, what my mind tells that these should be the top 10, that's exactly what ChatGPT tells. So that decision making is now being outsourced to the agent, and we need to build trust with that agent. And somehow that trust, that agent's optimization function is truth. Right? How to maximize the truth. So for example, I remember the top 10 cloud businesses in San Francisco, right? So when you write in Google top 10 cloud businesses in San Francisco, I can assure you there is not a single company in the search that Google tells you that these are the top 10, because Google gives you a blog link, and in that blog, someone who paid for that blog is at the number one, and that's how the top 10 is organized, right? That's not. But when you ask the same to ChatGPT or Grok, the top 10 are different. And those top 10s are, so for example, I was in San Francisco, top 10 cloud businesses. There was Google, there was Azure, and all that. And there was another startup I was working with, and he was asking us, so why my company is not in top 10? And he was beating his team, like, why you're not able to put his company in the top 10? Then I asked him, like, hold on, are you in top 10? This is a question. It's not, why are you saying you need to be in top 10? When you're not in top 10. So the question is this: why he's constantly thinking in terms of, because he's thinking in terms of SEO. That's not going to happen with ChatGPT. So I think that we need to build that trust. So what I like to call is like, find your niche. I mean, the question, if you are not a top 10 cloud provider, you're not a top 10 cloud provider. I mean, no way you can be ranked as a top 10. That's not going to happen. You need to find a new way. And I think we need to closely align this thing with our sales strategy. So for example, that guy, when he goes to sales, he tells to the customer, look, we are a very young business. We've recently started this, and that's our story. And we want to compete with these big players, but that's what we offer to that we bring to the table. That exact story needs to be reflected in your search now, in your chat GPTs and search engines now. That kind of story, because you can't fake your ranking and your profile anymore.
And I also think that, you mentioned the agents being trusted to control the outcome, and you mentioned, finding your niche. I think overall, if you look at agentic AI, like, adoption is early, yes, but it's also sort of uneven, right? I was looking at this other piece of research, and it told me that 40% of executives are actually not using agentic AI. 30% are experimenting, and 30% are at the scaling stage, but specifically in narrow domains like, call centers, or pricing use cases, and so on and so forth. So my question is this like another, cycle of hype that's being built up, or is this genuinely an inflection point?
No, this is not. It's not hype. So I just had this meeting with a top executive of a company,
Mm,
and Umar, what I literally saw was he built the entire platform. He was very close to finishing it using Claude Code, and he was not an engineer, right?
wow.
So he was a top executive, right? I can tell you that executives would be using AI a lot, and they're already using it, right?
Mm,
I think so. That's not true that executives are not using it. Most of them are using it. Both. I mean, technical AI, like for example, AI for coding or AI for usage. Like most of the executives I know, they're using all platforms like GPT, Grok,
mm,
voice agents from 11 Labs,
mm,
Whisper, Gamma, all the complete stack they're using from this standpoint. If they are technical, they're also using lots of stack from the code. They're using Codex, they're using Cursor, they're using Claude Code. So I think they're using it a lot. Now, when it comes to travel,
mm,
so what I found is like in travel industry, the executives are basically focusing on areas where which are very specific to them. So, for
mm,
example, if I'm leading a procurement or logistics or ground control,
mm,
so I would find if I have something that can help me in that part, right?
mm,
So it's not like it's not broad focused. Like it's
mm,
not like you're using AI for everything. Specifically in travel, what I've seen is like there's a lot of usage of AI agents, but very focused on certain kind of niches.
mm,
So that's how, for example, I've seen this one business. It's a airport maintenance business, and their people are using a very specific model designed for them, and
mm,
they're using it for a very specific kind of tasks. So even in travel, executives are using lots of AI. It's just like they're not as broad as, for example, probably in other domains. They are very much focused on in the kind of areas that are very much related to them.
mm, mm,
As I given the example of airports
mm.
maintenance authority I was working with.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense, right? But at the same time, I think there is still like this trust gap that exists. And we brought the discussion back to travel, and I think what's interesting about using travel as a lens is that I think it focuses, or forces rather, AI to make decisions that are very real, like decisions with money, decisions with timing, with feasibility, trade-offs. You want to do this, but you maybe don't want to give, that another the same amount of priority. So it moves it away from generating just text. But at the same time, like, why would you say like users still don't fully trust AI to finish the job? Like, what would you say about that?
They do. It's not like they don't. I mean, I do. So
Mm,
users do trust AI to finish their jobs. But I think one of the thing that what we call that humans are very lazy,
mhm,
right? I mean, think about in your workplace.
mm,
Think about yourself, Umar.
mm, mm.
You are using AI. You're using. I know you're using. You have your own AI stack. So you're
I do.
using, I think, 10 different tools.
Yeah.
Most of these tools are part of your work stack in last 1 year, right? It's not like
Yeah.
I'm talking about ancient history.
Mhm.
Just allow me for 3 days that I take back all of those 10 tools.
Yeah.
Would you
No.
be able to work?
Yeah.
You would. I mean, let's. Would you be able? You can't write your email now,
Yeah. That's how it is.
right? I mean, you. So I think people. One thing Anderson, Mark Edison recently said in his recent podcast, he said like what he. I mean, he was saying, and I think he's right. He said like, what people. I mean, watching people doing something
Mm.
and asking them what they do are entirely two different things. So, for
100%.
example, if I ask you, are you getting ask a general user of AI in America, what's your stance about AI, and they're going to say AI is just, I mean, they're going to kill our jobs, and they absolutely hate it and all that. But when you see what they're doing, everything they're doing is they're using AI tools day in, day out.
Yeah.
Right. So, but, and it's fine. It's very fine. So I think people are using, people can't go back.
Yeah.
That's one thing about AI that people are using. Now, the thing that you're trying to do is very specific about agents. Why we are not able to do complete, why we're not able to outsource an end-to-end job, and why can't I have an AI recruiting agent who can hire a guy and just complete everything? We are on that track. There are certain things that that are required. So, for example, we need to make sure how comfortable we are exposing all our workplace stacks to these agents. Tool use, every day AI is getting better in tool use. So tool use is a very important thing. When AI is very good from middle to middle, we have to start it, we have to end it, but these things are improving. I can at the end of 2026, you would see a lot of jobs. AI would be absolutely absolutely killing it. I think AI would be a great recruiter in terms of, like, I mean, I'm not talking about scouting. Scouting is a very different thing. I found you through scouting, right? That's a very different thing. Scouting means where I had to convince you for days and months to join me. That's
it wasn't that long. It wasn't that
long. That's scouting. But recruiting means, like, for example, I have a job. I want a relevant fit. That's all. I think that's SDRs. Even other jobs, AI agents would be doing most of these jobs. So I think just wait for next 6-8 months. And do you know how Claude Code is good, Umar? Do you know how Claude Code and Opera 4.5? I mean, you will be just amazed. What the hell is this? I mean,
that's it's honestly how it feels like with a lot of tools out there now, right? And you mentioned like AI in the workplace, and I think I completely agree with the premise that, if you ask somebody what they think about something versus how they actually use it, worlds apart, right? But
so never ask, just watch them.
Watch, yeah. I'm gonna do that next. But so I also think, like, if we move away from, or not move away rather, but if we also add something else into this lens, because there's a difference, right? Why it also depends heavily on how workplaces and businesses and enterprises define success. So I think let's talk a little bit about your thoughts on why does enterprise at the end of the day end up adopting agentic AI before an individual consumer, right?
So again, enterprises are so certain use cases. Again, you started with the travel. Let's say, so for example, corporate travel is adopting agentic AI faster than retail travel. Right. The reason for that is if I am sending 20 people for a conference, so that's a corporate travel. So I know what the budget is. I know what airline they're going to travel. So there are lots of things that are locked. There's lots of compliance related things that for corporate that's already there. So AI is very good with that. AI works. Agentic AI. If you want to make agentic AI work, there's only one thing: structured data. Right? You need to make sure that data is structured, and there should be rules. So that is the reason why, for example, in corporate travel, in restaurant industry, in food and beverages, these sort of industries, the AI adoption rate is very high. The reason for that is already most of the data is structured. Most of the things are already compliant. Rules are established. So it's far more easy to build agentic experiences on top of this structured data rather than just. And why structured data? Because agentic AI at the core, agentic AI, to make these things end-to-end work, you need to be very good in tool use. And to make agents good with the tool use, you need structured data.
You just have to figure out how to use the tools maximally, right? And that's I think something that's important. So if we bring this back to travel once again, the way I see it, there's 4 futures when it comes to the travel ecosystem overall. There's co-pilot commerce, there's AI experience creators, there is supplier direct AI, and then there's agent to agent negotiations, which I think for now is a little bit still on the sci-fi side of things. I don't know if you've seen those videos of like these people who are making one chat GPT voice talk to another chat GPT voice, and it's very confusing. But what's interesting is that I think all four futures are technically possible, but they're not operationally equal. So out of those, keeping travel as a lens, which future actually wins?
I think it's not about which future. Multiple futures would coexist, but I think operations decide winners. The players who control, for example, data freshness, decision latency. So when you talk about decision latency, I don't know if you have used or have seen certain apps within ChatGPT. So for example, there's a certain level of latency with certain apps. So for example, if you're using it, booking.com within ChatGPT, there's a bit of a lag as compared to other apps like Figma. So these kind of things are important, right? Who has written better software for these for ChatGPT, for Claude? This is very important. So expectation handling is a very important thing. How you handle expectations. So these kind of things. So it becomes more operational. One thing Umar, I talk a lot about this is like I think this is a time we need to put technology in the hands of the business users, the people who run operations, right? Rather than outsourcing these things to the just CTOs and these sort of people, because the whole AI thing and software thing has become a lot more operational now.
I think you're right. Like it's become a lot more operational. So putting it into the hands of business users. But then that also makes me like think about how, what at least in my eyes, vertical use cases tend to create like real value if you compare them to horizontal AI, right? For example, like guest allocation automation will save you hours. And then you talk about, computer vision and physical AI, like that brings, between like a 15 to 30% improvement in overall like labor efficiency and things like that. So why do these vertical use cases end up creating more value?
First of all, structured data. I mean, the more think of it like more focus you give to the AI agent, the better it performs. So think about vertical use cases in travel is imagine vision AI deploying in every room where you have the live analytics where you're assessing how much the overall condition of the room when the guest leaves, all sort of things, right? So the more focus you have when it comes to AI, which is more focus means which is more vertical you would make it, the better the responses would be, the better the results would be, the better the adoptions would be. So this is, I think, that's the reason why vertical AI in travel, as I said earlier, I mean, I've seen incredible use cases of AI in procurement, in logistics, in ground control, in food services, within the food services in flight. So in these kind of use cases, the more focus you give to the better it will perform. So these are the use cases in travel that are already creating lots of waves. And they've created some incredible customer experiences, especially in cabin food programs that are being tailored with AI. They've created lots of brand loyalty, and people are just they just love these sort of experiences. So the ROI is very, very high on these sort of things in vertical AI use cases.
And I think it also becomes about like looking at it from a point of view of like our goal is that we want to synthesize the overall customer experience. And so that then obviously opens up like conversations about like, bundling, moving from just dynamic pricing to actually bundling, right? So event-based bundles or you see people in the lens of travel do things like wellness-specific journeys and, very much context-aware packaging that's guardrailed by these verticals. Do you see value in this, or is this just like smarter upselling at the end of the day?
No, I mean, what I talked about, like when it comes to in-cabin food service, and I mean that's part of bundling, like how you bundle the whole experience. Dynamic pricing. is already dynamic.
mm,
However, in air travel,
mm,
is one of the biggest challenge now. How to make pricing work for the customers. The whole industry works in a very different model.
mm,
I mean, so dynamic pricing is already dynamic. There are platforms that provide pricing for these aircrafts, but that would change eventually. So imagine I mean, I think from 2 years or 3 years from now, if you want to move from, let's say, Lahore to New York,
mm,
and you have a budget, right?
mm,
And it's very, let's say you have I mean, you you can't spend that much. You have a budget.
mm,
uh, uh, um, you would have a flight for that.
mm,
Currently it's not how it is. Like, so for example, and currently it is like you have to, even if you are looking for the cheapest options, budget options, there are very limited options. And and there's in a year there's a window
mm,
where in those 2-3 months you can have those sort of flights. But I think with AI, because I think there's a lot of latent potential
mm,
available, because currently in the industry, but because the computation is so hard, you
mm,
really don't have any mechanism to compute so much different scenarios because most of them existing platforms are rule based.
mm,
uh, so it's very very hard. As we move from rule based platforms to pattern based platforms from the ground up, making it purely AI native, I think you would have flights even in some cases close to zero, near zero
mm,
price
mm, mm,
in the future, because there's so much latent value that needs to be untapped, especially when it comes to dynamic pricing for airlines.
mm, mm. And I really like that response, because the way you framed it, like latent value that exists and we need to capitalize on it, right? We touched on this a little bit last time in, I think, episode 3 or 4. But we talked a little bit about like the concept of, death by 1,000 pilots, right? Where you are trying to capitalize on that value that exists, and you end up doing, a bunch of different pilots. Why do these pilots fail even when we know that the tech works?
Let's start from, I mean, how many pilots do we have internally
Hmm,
in Code Ninja
hmm,
to make AI work?
hmm,
And I still think, I believe AI, even if we stop improving AI,
hmm,
most of the, and just say that let's take the cutoff date today,
hmm,
and even we just use the current AI and adapt it,
hmm,
it will just transform the workplaces and factory floors and the way we work. The reason is uh, we do not incentivize people
hmm,
to adapt the new kind of to adapt this to adapt AI. We don't incentivize.
hmm,
I mean, I remember this quote, Charlie Munger: "Never ever uh, think about anything else when the only thing you should think about is incentive alignment."
hmm,
So people, I mean, somehow, if uh, not using AI uh, gives them the incentive, why they would use it or adapt to this new paradigm.
hmm,
But why would they do it? So it's always, I can tell you, I mean, it's always people who don't adapt and have all those fantasies about that why it's not a good idea. And
hmm.
again, once if you ask them, if you watch them, they use a lot of AI for things that's relevant to them. But when it comes to improving workplaces and factory floors,
Hmm,
there you need to align the incentives.
hmm,
And also, I mean, what is a culture? Well, what is a culture? Culture means set of behaviors
hmm.
you which set of behaviors you punish and which set of behaviors you reward,
Yeah, yeah.
right? So it requires a different kind of culture
Hmm, hmm,
to make company a truly AI first company,
hmm,
where most of there are lots of departments. I can tell you there are a lot of departments that are not required anymore.
hmm,
There are a lot of but yeah, I mean, so it's an adaptation challenge.
hmm,
The companies who would adapt faster, you would see they would do better.
hmm, hmm. No, that's true, and I think culture, both in terms of explicitly and implicitly, but then that also makes me think about, like, if we talk about this new workspace, workforce, model, we hear about things. I know you've talked a lot about things like one pizza teams. So how, like, I guess to close, right? How do some of the world's most important businesses today actually build and run these systems? And then where does Code Ninja, where does Pakistan fit into all of this discussion that we're having today?
Clearly, one thing is very clear, that code generation is code is not a skill anymore.
Yeah.
Let's put it this way. It's not a, if the only thing you do is, if the only thing you do is writing a Java code, Python code, I'm not quoting myself, I'm quoting Stephen Wolfram. It's like, your days are numbered. That's not a thing. And one thing we did wrong with computer science students was, like, we taught a lot of trade, lot of diploma level thing to them, and branded under the degree of PS computer science. That I think this was not a good idea, to teach so many programming languages in a undergrad computer science courses. I think this is that shouldn't have happened. Theoretical computer science is what was required. So, for example, theory of automata, physics, advanced physics, these sort of things, right? So one thing is, like, coding is not a skill. I'm not over exaggerating it. It's true. If you see how Cloud Code works, so, however, it doesn't mean, like, what it means is a software engineer would now be doing a true engineering work. They would be doing coding. They would be using these platforms. They would be integrating a lot of different stuff. They would be generating a lot of new ideas for the customers. There will be no back-end, front-end, and design and all that stuff. That's one person thing, right? And that's not, there won't be a team. So back to your pizza question, there won't be any, there won't be any there won't be a 5 people team. There will be one person who would be handling end-to-end thing. So that's coming, and that is very exciting, by the way, right? It's not like that future of computer science or software engineering and all that. I think it was never brighter before. I think it was never this brighter before, because now it's a chance to apply these concepts of computer science into areas like climate, into the natural world, actually. But for that, you need to go beyond just coding. You need to understand the problem, right? And to understand the problem, you need to have a very good grasp of physics mental models, chemistry mental models, math, right? These are the things, materials, electrical, so these sort of things. So it's very exciting, but the ride would be very, very bumpy, I can tell you.